simply be vigilant. It's real easy to get fooled by this stuff because it just looks so legitimate.
In doing some homework for this, I noticed that a few very typical such appeals. We've noticed, for an example, an email that came from what looks like a legitimate company with a legitimate letterhead, a legitimate subject line that says about your account.
Yep.
The logo and letterhead was legitimate. It said, noticing that there were several bills that have been incurred in the past 5 or 6 days. We noticed that your account may be jeopardized and in arrears. Please click here so that we can clarify that. That sounded like a very legitimate thing. And as you said, if it looks like it's legitimate, it may look very legitimate. A dead giveaway, I understand, is if it came from Microsoft and Microsoft is misspelled, you'd certainly
look for that. Look for inconsistencies.
You'd certainly look for the inconsistencies. But this, even when it looks very legitimate, would the better idea be to try to call that company rather than you initiate rather than react?
Call the company, and if they say it's a problem with your account, go to the bank in person and say, look, what's wrong with my account? Let them show you on their computer system. There's nothing wrong with your account. Or get your bank statement if you have it. Go on the internet to the actual website address and look on the internet. You know, one thing about the internet that's really troublesome is that the social websites now, the MySpace, the Facebook, the LinkedIn,
Twitter, all of them.
People just put all their personal information on there. All their personal. Not saying that it's a bad thing or it's wrong. But if you put your date of birth on there and you put where you went to high school, where you went to college, that's just like saying, come and steal my identity because it's there for the whole world to see.
Also, it's not only very risky just to put that information there, it's well known now that those sites are among the most vulnerable. Those those who have ill intentions are more likely to hack in and then have that access. And at times you may not even know that you've been hacked or that you've had your computer information had a Trojan horse applied to it or whatever. And so at some point, even if you go to what is the legitimate site for, say we were talking earlier about the charity or to the credit card site, even if you have dialed in, you have hit the right URL address, if there's that Trojan horse or if there's something that's already attached to that website, very likely your information, personal information, is likely to be taken off, and that's very difficult. Even the spyware, even the antivirusware is having trouble keeping up because there's such activity right now to tap into.
And not only that, people don't renew their spyware.
Yes.
For months I never did because it just never occurred to me. You know, people don't renew their spyware, and lo and behold, my computer
antivirus
blacked out.
Yes, antivirusware.
No, what we were just talking about earlier is I was a victim of a credit card fraud because I opened my statement one day. We were just talking about this. I find out that somebody made a $4,500 purchase for an airline ticket from Nigeria, and what I was telling you, and I share with the viewers out there, is that the credit card that they use to make this purchase is a credit card, number one, that I never use, and if I do use it, it's solely to file cases with one of the local courts. So I thought that was a secure website. How did they get my credit card number? Maybe it's that. When I called the fraud department at the credit card company, they said that there are people just sitting out there that know what you're typing. If you're typing in your credit card number, even though you have all the famous software or antiviral software in the world, they can just be sitting somewhere out in Bora Bora, and they know exactly what the key punch software. They know exactly what you're typing, and that's a way that they can get your credit card number. I never knew that.
Most people, and I'm sure that most people don't. Since you had said earlier that Social Security is one of the key ways that people can start to steal your identity, knowing now that a credit card company, when they issue the new credit card each year, they want for me to call to activate it. They already have my Social Security number. In fact, I don't know who doesn't have my Social Security number. What security is there in my Social Security number anymore?
Well, that's why you get all those little notices about privacy and all that. If you're a customer of a bank and they're giving you a credit card, you're assuming that they're not sharing your information with other companies, okay? You're hoping that they're not getting your Social Security number, giving it out, and 99.9% of the time, they're probably not doing that. But how do we know that there's not an employee there who's taking information off of a computer system and they're using it? They always tell you, beware of what you throw out in the trash. which is
The
when
dumpster divers.
Yes, when shredders became famous. So now every time I put something in the trash, I have to think, okay, somebody will look at my trash. So you really have to be vigilant about that as well. Now, if somebody calls you up and asks for your bank account information, well, you know that that's not a legitimate call. You don't want to give your bank account information over the phone, just like you don't want to give your Social Security number over the phone.
And I guess we should remind people that it should only be given when you're initiating the call, but you'd have to make sure that that phone number that you're using or that you were given actually is the correct number and not somebody else's that's been replaced. Apparently, even with websites, there may be a very familiar URL address, but unless you're familiar with looking at it, there may be a secondary one that you aren't familiar with looking that has a string of numbers. And even, I suppose, those who are programmers would be more likely to spot that more quickly, but the average consumer surely would not. But very likely that second string is telling that response card not to go to the place it was designated, but rather to someone who is a scam artist and likely to be taking a flight to Paris on your credit card shortly.
Oh, yeah, lucky that individual, right?
You mentioned that the AG's office is a place that someone could likely go and find out about whether or not a charity is responsible, handling its finances well. Would the AG's office only know of those that have been problems, or would they also know of those who are doing business properly with a solid track record and some degree of sustainability?
Well, I checked on a couple AG websites last night in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. There's a wealth of information there, even if they don't have the name of every single legitimate charity or one that should be on the watchdog list. They give you links to look into other websites. For instance, the Federal Trade Commission, which is what I talked to you about, the GuideStar
would be, yes.
is another one. There's a lot of information. There's also information that consumers could read as to how to be wary about identity fraud, about fraudulent charities. You can get a wealth of information on both of them. You can download it. And if you don't have a computer, you can go right to the office and they can give you a pamphlet. There's plenty of information there.
You know, while we've spent an awful lot of time in this segment talking about how you could possibly intercept and avoid a scam, the other side of it is, and I think in all fairness we probably should note this too, that recently, and in particular relative to the Haiti situation, the BBC was reporting that many who had decided that they would donate and use their credit card through legitimate organizations were finding that it was being blocked by their banks. So this is the other side of being very vigilant. The banks were very wary, and instead of immediately funneling those dollars, instead decided that they would hold them up. It now meant that each one of those people who had decided that they would donate through a certain charitable organization now needed to call that credit card company or call the bank to unblock what was going on. And I understand that that could happen. They did it in good faith, but nevertheless, it caused the other side of the coin to take place. We've had so much to review today. Jackie, thank you so much for this insight. I think in the next session, we hope we'll have David back with us, and our lawyers will be weighing in on unemployment law and employment appeals. When there's a problem, what do you do about it? What are your rights? We once again thank you, Jackie, for addressing some of these critical issues, and hope you'll be with us as the discussion about legal issues continues.